Welcome back to Fade to Chat, Golden Age Cinema. In this episode, Marty Gensius, that's me, and Cindy Rotz, that's you.
Me.
We're gonna journey deep into one of the greatest epics of cinematic history, David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia from 1962. We're going to explore a little bit about the monumental production, the sweeping desert visuals, and the enigmatic figure of T.E. Lawrence, whose legend is kind of blurred between the lines of heroism, obsession, and empire. And particularly, this was my gift to Cindy because she had given me Gaslight, which I had never seen. And I knew this could be a stretch, given the list of some of her other movies that she has. But I couldn't let her go without her having to see Lawrence of Arabia. So we have not talked before the show.
No.
And so I'm curious, how much trouble am I in?
Not at all. In fact, thank you for making me watch it. I have watched it probably at least 4 times. In fact, I just finished watching it. I turned it on this morning and thought, because it was a little time since I watched it before with me being away last week, I thought I better review this film again. And I turned it on around 10:30 this morning and thought, I've got plenty of time. Then I went, no, Cindy, this is a 4-hour movie. You do not have plenty of time. Get with it. No, I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. I would watch it again and again. So thank you. Yeah.
So your first watch, when you first saw it, what was your experience like? Knowing that you were headed into a 3.5-hour journey.
Well, at first I thought this is going to be brutal because I'm not much in favor of war movies, but it was, in my mind, that was a minor part of it. I enjoyed Peter O'Toole and the character development and that side of the movie, and the battles and the war, that was secondary to me. And I'll be honest with you, one of the reasons I had to watch it so many times was because I'm not a real big history buff. In fact, I said I should have paid more attention in history class. I was one of those students. I did very well for the test. I could memorize all the facts and I could get all the information in my brain that I needed. But man, as soon as that test was over, it was out of there. And this movie, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to remember all this? So the first time I just watched and thought, don't worry about that. Just watch the movie, enjoy it. And I thought, I can't remember all these names and when did this battle occur? And I thought, just don't worry about it. Just enjoy the movie, which I thoroughly did. And the second impression I had was, I wish I had seen it on a large screen.
Yeah.
I knew you had said that to me, the bigger the screen, and I mean, my TV, I don't have 65, 75, 85-inch TVs in my home, unlike some people. And I thought I would love to see this movie in a theater with surround sound and just be all encompassed in it. I think that would be an amazing experience to see it again in a different setting. And then I thought, I wonder if you could load this onto a Vision Pro. Is that possible?
Yeah, in fact, it's one of the movies I have on my Vision Pro. And so, yeah, you can get more of that cinematic feeling. So let's talk a little bit about. I'm glad you appreciated it, and I hadn't watched it in a while, and then I watched it to prep for this, and it was like, oh man, I can't remember what war this is, where it's, what were the Brits doing in Africa? It's not World War II. What are they doing there in World War I? And T.E. Lawrence, all I think of is he's like this philosopher kind of person. I didn't necessarily So I was lost in history on this too,
Good.
particularly with my first watch. With this,
Good.
I like the attitude that you took with it, saying, "Hey, I'm not going to worry about the details. I'm going to
Mm-mm.
focus on the relationship because that's what I think this movie is all about. It's the
Mm-hmm.
story of how he built relationships and the kind of ways he dealt with conflict. Even going from the point where he was, you have these wonderful vistas, and you have the different views in the movie that are just particularly striking.
Breathtaking. Mm-hmm.
And I forget about that when I watch the film, or when I haven't watched the film, and then I sit down and watch the film, and I still am stunned by
Mm-hmm.
the vistas and the way, even on a small screen, a lot of this
Yeah.
comes across. I think you first recognize the impact of how David Lean shot this and the cinematography that was done with it, with the waterhole scene, and where you see they're stopped at water and there's this large vista, and you see a little dot in the distance,
A
and he
speck. Yeah.
stays on that shot through the whole thing.
Yeah, it was like how many minutes long? 2 minutes long, something like that.
Yeah.
12 cuts I read. Yeah. It's like, okay, I thought, am I seeing something? Like I was squinting to see what was coming in the distance. Yeah.
And he does the
Yeah, that
same
was
effect later on when Lawrence goes back to rescue that
hmm
guy in the desert. The same sort of distant
yes.
pinpoint
Yes.
shot. So yeah,
Yes, he does. Yeah, and I like the fact that they showed the well from you were looking up to the well, up to the sky.
yeah,
You were down in the well looking up, which is not how you would normally think of it. In the beautiful blue sky, it's like, what are we seeing? It's like, oh, we're down in the well. Yeah, it was an interesting viewpoint.
yeah.
And I thought too, that scene reminded me of the scene in North by Northwest when Cary Grant was waiting for, that the guy to come with him and the crop duster scene and the truck comes and it was that eerily silent. There was no sound. It was just the two of them on either side of the road, just like in this movie. It was Peter O'Toole and his guide, and they're seeing Omar Sharif coming in the distance, like, okay, is this going to be a good guy or a bad guy? What's happening? And it was just eerily silent until you realized, again, what was going to happen. So that reminded me of the movie North by Northwest.
Yeah, and Hitchcock did those shots, or had those shots done, from basically a elevated cherry picker. Shot those large
Mm,
over, those large vista shots, and I think David Lean did all these from a ground perspective, basically, because he could use the flat horizon or
yeah.
the hilled sand horizon if he wanted to. And then another element in the cinematography was the heat, because
Yeah.
the heat had created those kind of thermal waves that distorted
hmm
the pictures that were in the distance. So you couldn't clearly see what was coming, but you knew something was coming.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, that was one of the reasons I'm like, you need to see this if you haven't seen it before, because I would be, whether you like war movies or military movies or not, I think you would be struck by the cinematography that he does through the whole film.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
We, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
No.
No, I just, you know me, I dig into things, and I read that when Omar Sharif was coming uh, across the sand in that scene, that I don't know if you noticed or not, but the sand almost was a different color, and they actually painted that white. And they said camels
Oh,
travel, 1 foot in front of each other, but they painted that area, and that's the path that he traveled to come to that point.
oh, wow. And looking at the vista, you can see the surrounding sand is a different color in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the pathway that was chosen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious again about your reaction to the vistas, and were you
Well,
surprised that you got an intermission?
I was thankful, but yeah, it's like, okay, how long is this going to be? So I just fast forwarded through it.
Yeah,
I thought, okay, I'm just watching a blank screen here. I'm just going to fast
yeah,
forward through this. But yeah, in fact, today I was watching the time and I thought, okay, what can I fast forward through here? Because I've only got so much time to watch this. But I
yeah,
really couldn't. I just had to watch everything because I just kept writing. I mean, I have so many notes and I just kept writing things and thinking, I love this scene and I love this comment. I mean, it was just, well, like you say, 4 hours worth, but it was just so much. And of course, the very, very beginning, that the match,
yeah,
striking of the match, and then the sunrise. I went, ah, I mean, that was just jaw dropping for me. That's where my love of it began. I thought, wow, look at that. I'd
yeah.
never seen anything like that before.
And you get a sense of who T.E. Lawrence is through that whole discussion, where everybody's trying to get him to do the trick with the lit
Mm-hmm.
match, and and the comment he makes is you know, how is he able to put a lit match out with his fingers? And it's like you don't pay attention to the pain.
To the hurt. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it kind of sets him up
Mm-hmm.
for his conflict with what occurs in the movie, particularly in the latter part of the movie, where he's having a real
Mm-hmm.
internal conflict of what's happened to
Mm-hmm.
him and what's going on. And finally, there seems some settling, but then he winds up being in a situation where he's trying to negotiate between the different tribal groups for
Mm-hmm.
how are they going to settle Cairo and how are they going to manage Egypt.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the very beginning, he told Dryden, I believe it was, he said, oh, this is going to be fun. And that's how he went into it. And well, this is going to be fun. And of course, he found out it was not fun. It was quite different than that.
Yeah. His dialogue with like particularly Omar Sharif, with even his guide before he
Mm-hmm.
meets Omar Sharif, the idea that I if I'm going to get to understand this, then I should be eating your food, eating the food type of food that you eat,
Yes.
and you shouldn't be giving me any extra water because I
Yeah.
want to be the way people are in the desert that are
Mhm.
successful in being with the desert. So
He
the
said, I'll
idea
drink
that,
when you drink.
yeah, I'll drink when you drink. Yeah.
I'll drink when you drink. Yeah.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
idea that he wanted to kind of respect the cultural
Mm-hmm.
difference uh, without trying to impose his own expectations on it. The dialogue back and forth with Omar Sharif when they have conflict, and then even later in the film where he meets Alec Guinness, and Omar Sharif already has a relationship with Alec Guinness, and
Mm-hmm.
just how he manages to negotiate with the different tribal groups and even Anthony Quinn and how he manages to figure out this is what Anthony Quinn wants, this is what we need to do to get him on board. So,
Right. Right. Yeah. Did you want to talk about, because I made a list
yeah,
of, just to keep
sure.
myself straight,
You,
of the who was in the movie and their role, so to speak.
yeah, sure. So you had David Lean as the director. This came out in 1962, sort of the close to the end of the golden age of cinema, and close to
Mm-hmm.
the end of the studio sort of run and driven business. Peter O'Toole is in it, stars as T. Lawrence. Alec Guinness is in it, and he is Prince Faisal, and it seems like he is the large connecting figure there. Anthony Quinn is Adadu Abi Tayi, and he seems to be more of a warrior type with a warrior, very proud of his tribe in terms of being warrior. Lawrence pretty quickly figures out that he needs to have them align with Faisal's group in order
Right.
to be successful with it.
Right. Yeah. He manages to do that.
Yeah, Jack Hawkins is General Allenby. Jack Hawkins was also in a. If you like David Lean, man, I can tell you, Bridge on the River Kwai.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll
Yeah,
be another one I need to watch, I'm sure. Yeah.
yeah. Jack Hawkins is General Allenby. Jose
Okay.
Ferrer is the Turkish Bey.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Omar Sharif as Sharif Ali Ibn El Quraish. Arthur Kennedy is Jackson Bentley, and Claude Rains is Mr. Dryden, the politician.
Yes.
And I'd seen Claude Rains in other things, but this role, he really is rather
Yeah.
suave and smooth
Yeah.
in that
And very
way.
subtle with the little hand movements, like,
Yeah,
cut it out, Lawrence, cut it out, giving him little signals like what he should do. He was also in Notorious
right.
with Ingrid
Yeah,
Bergman.
yeah.
That was a good movie. Yeah.
The runtime is 222 minutes.
hmm
That works out to 34 minutes short of 4 hours, if I have that math correctly. Correct? It's 242. Yeah, 240
Yeah.
would be. Yeah, okay.
Right.
But it's reduced in the restored version to 2 hours and 16 minutes. So I'm
hmm
not exactly sure what they took out in the restored version. It's Super Panavision 70. So, you think of 35 millimeter and then you think of doubling that and you have
Double.
Super Panavision in
hmm
Technicolor, filmed in Jordan, Morocco, and Spain.
Spain. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to share about that.
Did I read somewhere that T.E. Lawrence's brother was involved in the movie somehow, that they had to get his approval before the movie was made? I thought I read that somewhere,
It
that
could
they had to
be.
consult him.
Yeah, I think you don't want to have a movie come out on a historical figure without getting some agreement from the surviving family. It just
Mm,
if you do it without their awareness, not necessarily their total approval, but without their awareness, I think you set yourself up for problems. So it could have been just a gesture of to make sure that the family at least was connected and could have some say in how Lawrence was portrayed. I mean, the large question in this film. Initially you hear this question that he says. He goes, "I killed a man, killed two men,"
mm,
and what impacted me the most was that I liked it.
I liked it. Yeah.
And so you think of that in terms of an internal struggle he has. And then his being held in a Turkish jail, and the jailer apparently taking liberties with him.
Yeah.
And the question in terms of his reaction to that, or his awakening as a part of that. So I think when you're getting into those kind of sensitive issues around gender identity, and when you're getting into the sensitive issues about saying that you wound up enjoyed killing. Yeah,
hmm
I think you want to make sure the family's on top of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, So, 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director.
Mhm.
It revolutionized widescreen photography to my sadness, which didn't last very long
Mm.
as a way of shooting films. But Freddie
What
Young's
other
Desert.
movies have been? I'm sorry, Marty.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
What other films have been shot in this 70 millimeter? I'm not aware.
So, looking to see what films were shot in Super Panavision 70. There were
Hmm.
lots of films shot in 70 millimeter. So, even some contemporary films. If you just look that up, you'll see
Okay.
that. But if you put in the condition that it's Super Panavision 70 movies, Lawrence of Arabia comes up, Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
Hmm.
2001 A Space Odyssey,
Space Odyssey. Okay.
Grand Prix, which is a film that I saw recently, Ryan's Daughter, Exodus, West Side Story.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Yeah. So, and you kind
Surprise.
of have to go back and I'm going to have to go back and look at some of these. My Fair Lady was shot that way.
Wow.
So, being a kind of film person, I'm nuts about this, and you'll see other film people be upset with what the pan and scan is, where they take a wide shot film with two people having conversations on either sides of the wide shot. And as one person
Okay.
talks, they pan over to them.
And
And as the other person talks,
hmm
they pan
hmm
over to the other so they can get it in a smaller format. Directors go nuts. Of course, for it to be screened on most streaming services, to avoid that, you would letterbox it and put black bars,
oh,
and people
oh, and
don't
I hate
like
that.
that.
Now I hate Letterbox. Yeah.
See, I like letterbox because I
Do you?
know they're not messing with the cinematographer's vision. I can Doesn't bother
Okay.
me to be in a letterbox, but the pan and scan stuff kind of ruins the whole fact that you've got these two people talking with the vista around them, and what you're just getting is it's like you're following who's talking. You're not looking at the
I
scene.
see. No, I
So
see. I'm wrong about that. Letterbox, I do like. Once I realize I'm seeing the whole scene,
yeah,
because it just gives you that. Yeah. Yeah. Because
so
you'll love
uh,
it. My mother, who's 95
yeah,
and almost 96, when I'm with her and she's watching TV, somebody changed her TV so that it's bigger. The picture is
uh,
bigger and half of it is cut off. And I'm like, that's what you're saying. Part of it is missing, part of it's cut off. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and
And that's,
I think there have been some examples of this, like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. There is a dance
mm-hmm.
scene in that movie where it is vista shot. So you can see all seven of them dancing with all
Yeah,
seven of their partners. And some
sure.
cases they've turned it into a pan and scan. And you
Uh,
lose the impact of the choreography
yeah. Yeah.
because of that. So, lots of famous directors have come out saying don't do this for that purpose. So yeah, Super
Hmm.
Panavision 70 in Technicolor was what Lawrence of Arabia and Ice Station Zebra. That is a interesting film, but I have to go back and see it now and see whether I have a compressed version of it or whether I've got the full 70 in it. So
What is it?
Ice
Station
Station
Zebra, right?
Zebra, it
I think I
is
saw that.
it
Who's
is
in that?
yeah, that's where I'm going for now.
We're off track, but I think I saw that.
Uh, okay, I can't remember. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson's in that movie.
Oh, then I saw it for sure.
Ernest Borgnine
Yes,
and
yes,
Patrick
yes, yes.
McGowan, and they're dealing with. I think it's the one with the. They have to get to an area where some satellite Russian spy satellite has fallen, if I've got it
Yeah, I'm pretty
correct.
sure I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to Lawrence,
Okay, Lawrence.
or as they call
Okay.
him, Orenz.
Yeah, that took me a while to figure out too. I thought, are they not able to say Lawrence or what's that about? Lawrence. And
Yeah,
then
I think
L.
it's, and then L. Lawrence. Yeah,
L.
or L.
Lawrence.
Orenz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The revolutionized widescreen photography, Peter O'Toole's debut. This was
Mm-hmm.
really his first significant film. Transformed him into an international star and redefined screen charisma. I don't think you've seen many Peter O'Toole films, have you?
No. No.
Okay. If you
But
want
he
like a
also was not the first choice.
yeah, that's right. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
He- Um, I don't remember now. I remember looking it up and they said he was not the first choice. Um,
Marlon Brando,
okay, that was, yeah, Marlon
and
Brando.
then
Yeah.
Albert Finney declined the role. Albert
Okay.
Finney, the British actor, um, pretty famous. You see some things that
Okay.
he's been in.
And I
But
actually think I saw somewhere even Cary Grant was considered. I thought, no, maybe I
yeah, I
made
thought
that
I
up.
read that
I
too.
thought
And
I saw
he
that.
was like,
Mm,
"No, you don't want me. You want somebody else." And I think he might have
yeah.
even mentioned O'Toole as part of the list. His piercing blue
Hmm.
eyes became iconic. We're
Yes,
talking about Peter O'Toole against the
absolutely.
desert's golden palette. So
Hmm.
interesting stuff.
Yeah, and there was such a strong contrast between him as a um an English person, so to speak, against the dark skinned
Yep.
Arabs. And of course, they showed him once he got into his white robes, it was almost like he was a godlike figure.
Yeah.
That scene where he was standing on top of the train with his, arms raised. I mean, he looked like he was Jesus or something on the cross. I mean, and I think he got to that point in his own mind where he felt like he was almost godlike. He said, "Well, you can't even kill me. You'd have to have a golden bullet." And then he knocked on the train. He thought he was invincible, and he couldn't be killed or hurt at that point.
Yeah. It's an interesting character development because I think
Hmm.
at the same time he felt that way, it, feeling that way also scared him. That he
Hmm.
had enough self perception. He wasn't, we have stories, plenty of stories of people who go off thinking they're invincible, and it's to their failure. And it's generally to their failure because they actually believe that or they act as if. I think he had
Hmm.
self doubts about it, which is what kind of caused, along with the time in the Turkish jail, kind of caused his I think breakdown by the end of the movie. And that final scene where he's driving in a jeep in full British uniform and he passes the camels and the
Hmm.
Arabs that are on the camels. He pass him in the
Hmm.
desert and he kind of looks and he's fascinated, like he's
Yeah.
longing for that again.
Yeah.
You know?
He turns to look at them almost as if, "Do I know you?"
Yeah,
And then he
yeah,
back down. Hmm.
yeah. Other notes that you might have that you'd like to share?
Well, I often thought from the very beginning that his uniform did not fit him. That it was very awkward. His pants are too short, and the very first scene where he and his guide were watching Omar Sharif come into the desert, he kind of stumbled and actually tripped, and he just looked so awkward. And I was watching a video of the woman who did the costumes, and she said they did that on purpose, that they chose a uniform for him that was ill-fitting, excuse me, and they also ran it through the wash a couple of times so it shrunk, and they wanted that to signify that he was kind of a misfit, that he didn't quite fit that
Yeah.
role. And they did that on purpose. And then when he switched to his beautiful flowing robes that the Arabs gave him, that was more in tune with his character. He was more in tune with the Arabs than he was the English or the British. But that was
Yeah.
done on purpose.
And that scene where he puts the robes on and then rides out, and he's out by himself for a while. And just before, I
Mm-hmm.
think he runs into Anthony Quinn, actually. And he's out kind of engaging in the experience of what it feels like, at least dress wise, to feel as an Arab.
Yeah,
It's very kind of poetic and very choreographed in a way
right.
that you get a sense of what he's feeling and experiencing in the moment.
Yeah, and again, I read that was kind of ad libbed. That David
Yeah,
Lean said, do whatever you feel, and he said that's what I feel like doing. So they
yeah.
just allowed him to, kind of do that.
There were some epic battle scenes in this,
Hmm.
and I was not as interested. I'm never as interested in the battle scene as I am in the staging of the battle scene. How they managed to
Hmm.
get that many people to
Yeah,
move in that kind of unison.
right.
Filmed with
Yeah,
hundreds of
yeah.
extras, horses. There's a ballet of movement that goes on, and this is the Aqaba assault.
Hmm.
Just that whole where they pan across from a high area, they pan across the screen from where you can see they're starting to really rush into the city, and then they kind of
Hmm.
filter out into fingers in parts of the
Hmm.
city, and it pans through that point where you can see that is just really those kinds of directorial things just amaze me and how they
Hmm.
can do it. And we have very few contemporary directors, I think, that stage things that way anymore. They're kind of close up in the battle. They want to spend a lot of time doing fast cuts between movements, so you can't really see the beauty of the
Hmm.
movement if there is beauty in the movement.
No,
So
you're right. And I think that's what I appreciated about it, because I'm looking at all the horses and the beautiful, the the flags that they had, the colors, the sparks of color. They had reds and blues and yellows, and then the horses had beautiful, I don't even know what you call it, um, headdresses, and
yeah,
the camels. And I'm busy looking at all that kind of thing. And like you said, it wasn't really focused on so much the shooting. Yes, there was shooting. There were people that fell off horses, but it
horses.
wasn't it wasn't the focus of it. I thought the train scene was very interesting. That was one of
Yeah,
my favorite scenes.
yeah.
And
Again,
I
another.
heard that you can actually go and see that train now. It's still
Yeah,
there. Yeah, it wasn't a mock up.
yeah, and again, the wide vista shot where you can see the train
Hmm.
coming to the actual approach and the that. Um, any other comments that you have?
Well, um, I found a few things that I thought, I kind of wondered about, and I'm sure you did too. Filming in a desert, you can't just do one take of something. So, how did they keep the desert so pristine? With all the camels and all the horses and everything, and
Yeah.
even their footprints. So, let's say they had to do a second um, shot of something. How did they manage that? And they said they had these special long tools, like a stick, kind of a tool
Uh-huh.
with a fuzzy, like a mop or something on the end of it. And they would go around and, clean up afterwards when they had to do a second shot. And apparently, there was one time someone had been drinking from a coffee cup, just a white plastic coffee cup, and it went blowing across the sand and ruined the whole scene. And they had to go out and clean that up. And another time there was a truck that had been carrying some supplies and it drove right across the sand and made all these tire marks and they had to go out and clean that up. And those are things you don't think about, because you think, that the blowing sand would just take care of that, but they'd have to go out and erase the camel's footprints and the horse's footprints and do that shot all over again. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, there was one shot that I just recall with camels, with a couple of camels walking, and this was at the Oasis, and they're kind of walking up a
Okay.
dune, and there were already camel prints there or footprints there, and I
Uh-huh.
thought
I
they
didn't
haven't.
see that.
Somebody else has been there, or this is a second
Yeah.
shot
Yeah.
of the sequence that they decided to use, and they decided, well, we're just going to ignore the fact that probably somebody
Mm,
walked that way anyways. But I
right.
was I was interested in that. I have a bunch of little trivia and
Mm-hmm.
deep facts for folks. Do you have more general things to say about the film, or?
Um, well, I think for me, yeah, a couple of the quotes that really stuck in my mind. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the movie when it was the scene, it was nighttime. And they showed that beautiful nighttime sky. It was kind of sparkly and glistening.
Hmm.
And Lawrence and his guide that later got killed, but his original guide, were having like their very first talk together. And he was asking him, he said, Lawrence, where did you come from? And he said, are you truly, he kept saying, truly, are you truly a British officer? And Lawrence said, yes. And he said, well, where did you come from? And he said, I come from Oxfordshire. And the guide said, is that a desert country? And Lawrence says, no, it's a fat country.
Yeah.
And the guy says, but you are not fat. And he says, no, I'm different. And I thought, from the very beginning, that told you a lot about him that he was different. He really didn't know who he was, I think. And like you said, he struggled throughout the movie. He was on the British side, but he was, trying to help the Arabs and he just struggled with his identity throughout the whole movie. So I thought that was interesting that he said, "No, I'm different."
Yeah, and in T.E. Lawrence's actual diaries, apparently his kind of pop culture or mythic aspects of him being more divine than human, he didn't care
Mm,
for that portrayal at all, and
mhm.
probably would not have liked Lean's portrayal or version of him as a result of that. It's because, as you said, I think he perceived himself as being someone who didn't really felt out of place and didn't really
Mhm.
feel like he deserved the accolades or the specialness that people were deferring to him.
Right. Even in the very beginning of the movie, during his, um, I guess, memorial, you would call it, they were interviewing different people and they said, what did you think of him? And many of the people said, I don't know him. I didn't understand him. I don't know what to say about him. The reactions were very mixed. Even people that should have known him well, they said, he was a clown. He was uh, a this or that. And then other people said, I didn't know him at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And some of the people who had the biggest conflict with him in that sense said those
Hmm.
statements too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, some other little pieces about this that we managed to dig out. If you're looking at the movie, these might be of interest to you. Particularly the desert shoot in Jordan was halted twice due to sandstorms, and also the
Hmm.
temperature reached 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which was
Yeah.
damaging the equipment. It's not the heat, and people say it's not the heat, it's the humidity. Well, 130 seems like a lot, but in an arid place, it's not as frightful as it is because of the dryness of it. But it still damaged the camera equipment. And the other
Yeah.
thing I couldn't imagine is how do you shoot with so much dust blowing around all the time
Hmm.
without damaging your camera equipment?
Yeah. I think David McLean had to wear, not McLean, David Lean
Yeah,
wore goggles.
yeah.
He had to wear goggles to protect his eyes, I'm sure. And didn't they keep the film in a refrigerated um, area because they kept burning a hole in the film?
Oh, I didn't know
It
that.
got so hot.
Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, David Lean probably wanted to have goggles because he needed to keep his eyes open the whole time when
Right.
shoots were being done. So yeah, I think actually I saw some stills of David Lean with goggles on
Hmm.
while talking
Hmm.
to Peter O'Toole. The
Yeah.
restored negative was stored in Columbia's archive in a climate controlled vault after having faded severely by the 1980s.
Hmm.
So the negative itself, and we know film preservation is important, particularly the early films that before stock got a little bit more protective and more resilient. But in this
Hmm.
case, yeah, they did a restored version of it, which is probably what you're seeing through most streaming services at this
Right.
point.
Did they have to go back and redo some of the dialogue as well?
I didn't hear that. Did you?
Hmm. And I pulled up a bunch of videos. I watched some of Peter O'Toole talking about the movie and Lean, or I call him McLean, Lean talking about the directing part of it. And I thought they said that they had some of the footage, there was no dialogue. So they had to go back and
And
put it
they,
back in. And they had to watch it again and dub it back in because it had been lost.
yeah. Um, One thing I wanted to ask you about:
Hmm?
were you familiar with the score or with the theme?
Yes. Yes.
So you were
Yes.
familiar with it before you saw the film.
As soon as I heard it, I thought, well, I know this. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
recognizable to me. And I couldn't figure that out because I know I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard that score before, or at least parts of it. Hmm.
Yeah, and then throughout the film, you see that kind of bridging different scenes or
Hmm.
parts of that bridging different scenes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was originally a score. Martin Jarre's score replaced one originally commissioned from Benjamin Britten, who
Hmm.
withdrew from the film because of creative differences. And Jarre's
Yeah.
score is what we know and what we remember from it.
Yeah. And I was also not familiar with, and again, history, not my strong suit, Seven Pillars of Wisdom. Never heard of it, never read it.
Hmm.
It was the book he wrote, Seven Pillars of Wisdom by T.E. Lawrence. And I thought, well, maybe I should do a little reading on that.
Um, Alec Guinness, I felt there was it almost felt like there was a bit of cultural appropriation by having him in the role of Prince Faisal. He darkened his skin a little bit in order to be in the
Yes,
role. He did
yes,
some affectation with his voice, which I think helped, but it was still Alec Guinness. Um, and so I had trouble with that. With that originally, and even every time I watch the film, it just there's a little bit of jarring impact. And it was accepted at that time to for actors to darken their skin, do
yeah,
an affectation in terms of their voice, but I think contemporary representations of it would have problems with him.
would have problems. I had trouble with Anthony Quinn,
Yeah,
that nose. the
Yeah,
nose.
yeah.
At times I thought it didn't match his face. He had obviously a prosthetic nose on. Um, and at times I thought it looked like it was going to almost come off his face. It was just strange looking. I was just waiting for it. I thought, okay, that just doesn't look real to me. And I guess because I read about it and thought about it, and yeah, I had heard that he got himself in costume and makeup, and he went to the director before he even was considered for the part. And Lean looked over and said, "Who the hell's, excuse me, who the heck is that guy?" And he said he looks just like, the part that they were wanting him for. And they said, "Well, whoever he is, that's the guy we want." So
Hmm.
he just took it upon himself to make himself look like the character he thought he should be.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had a little
I
trouble.
yeah I had less trouble with Anthony Quinn than because
Okay.
his role was so over hyper masculine,
Yeah.
and that was his intent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we all didn't have any problem at whatever with Omar Sharif, I guess. But
Oh
Alec
no.
Guinness,
No.
Alec Guinness was a bit of a challenge for me, and still is. But now go
Okay.
watch Alec Guinness in Bridge on the River Kwai. and
Okay.
and that's a different role. I mean, that's a perfect role for him. He plays a captured British soldier in a concentration camp where he is asked to build a bridge, and
Mm.
the internal conflict in doing that. I'm not trying to get you to watch another epic military movie, but it's David
That's
Lean,
all
and
right.
you will see everything you saw uh, in Lawrence of Arabia. You'll see in Bridge on the River Kwai. My
Okay.
wife will come in the room when I'm watching it, and she'll go, "Oh, you're watching that again."
Well, as soon as you told me we were going to do this movie, I said, "Oh my gosh, I better get started." And I did. I watched it that very day, but then I was away for a few days and I
Yeah,
thought, watch that again. Then I watched it again and yeah. It wasn't a struggle though.
yeah. I did find a note on what you just said. The restored version re-recorded missing dialogue with
Hmm.
O'Toole and Sharif more than 25 years later. They came in to do the restored dialogue, which is pretty cool.
I also, one of the parts I liked about the movie was his relationship with the young boys. And
Yeah.
that was that was heartbreaking to see what had happened to them both, of course. And again, that was part of his struggle. I won't give it away, but that was part of his struggle in the movie. But, there was a kindness about him
Yeah,
with the young boy.
and it brings up the whole question in terms of his gender affinity,
Mm-hmm.
and potential with
Mm-hmm.
that. And again, this was 1962, so the depiction of that is probably a little bit more stereotypic and a little bit more predatory than
Yeah.
what we would find acceptable in contemporary views of it. But he certainly was a interesting character and probably someone very difficult to accurately capture on film, in terms of who he was and his struggles that he had.
Yeah. So
You have such a
any
deep well of
mm-hmm.
stuff that you looked at. I'm going to ask again, before we close up, is there any other
Okay.
thing that you saw?
I saw a couple inconsistencies. Um, the photographer, Jackson Bentley,
Uh huh.
when he handed it, in fact, I paused the movie and looked at it. I looked at his business card when he handed it to whoever he handed it to, I don't remember, Jackson Bentley, but it said Mr. G.E. Bentley. It was not a J, it was a G, a capital G, and it was very fancy, but it was not a J. It was G.E. Bentley.
Hmm.
And I paused the movie and I looked at that several times.
Okay, so let me have some fun with that.
All right.
His given name was Gerard with a G,
Oh,
and and was referred to commonly as Jay or Jerry. I don't know if that's the fact. I'm just trying to work out the switch in. Now that
was that
is
in
some
the
research
movie?
to do. No,
I
no,
did.
that's just in my
Oh,
head.
just knew that. It's in your head.
So
Okay. All right.
if he was and I believe he was an actual real life character, that would be fun to Wikipedia him and find out if he went by Jerry
Okay.
and his name was Gerard. Yeah, do that
Okay.
after. We'll do that after the
Uh,
episode.
okay.
Talk about it next time.
Yeah. So in the opening scene, the
Yeah.
motorcycle, he's standing over that motorcycle and he's going over it meticulously, wiping it off and checking this and checking that and, very making sure everything's working right, puts his goggles on. And it clearly was on because it was an overhead shot looking down on him doing all this. It clearly was on concrete because you could see
Uh huh.
like the lines between the
The
concrete.
bricks. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, big pieces
Yeah.
almost of concrete. But then once he got on the motorcycle to ride, off in the distance, it was gravel. Because I was looking for, I thought, well, where are those big sections? It looked
Mm-hmm.
like a completely road to me.
So he took off on gravel, although the overhead shots were clearly ones
Hmm.
of he was on concrete slabs
Like
when he was
concrete
looking.
was,
Yeah.
yeah. And his hair never blew either.
Yeah.
As
Well,
fast as he was riding, his hair never blew.
they gelled him up pretty good, I think,
They sure did. They
in
sure
order for the.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, I read that you probably know this too about learning to ride the camels, what a struggle that was,
Yeah.
and how he managed to get some foam rubber, to put on the camel's seat. But at one point, because you were talking about one of the battle scenes where there's, hundreds of horses and camels and all riding, very fast, and they're swinging sabers and they have guns and everything. At one point, Peter O'Toole fell from his camel,
Yeah.
and they said that his camel literally stopped and stood over him and protected him while the rest of them rode
Huh.
by.
Yeah. It says
Yeah.
Peter O'Toole performed nearly all of his stunts, including the dangerous camel charges and sword play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is shocking. But of course, he's a young actor trying to break through. This is a big breakthrough role for him. And probably they were not necessarily, they'd allowed them to do shots with him that were close up. So he didn't have to use a stunt double. And,
Mm.
he's probably agreeable to that. But he did say that with his height, which was 6'2" it required that
Mm-hmm.
custom built camel saddle. And he said, I
Yeah.
learned to hate camels more than the Turks.
Yeah. Yeah. I read that Omar Sharif had never ridden on a camel, and I know, he was so afraid of falling off that he tied himself to the saddle so he wouldn't fall off.
You
And
know, I, yeah, yeah, go ahead. He was
Anthony Quinn
horses.
was also worried. He was worried because the Arabs were riding with sabers and they had guns and everything. And apparently, David Lean told him that he put three of his best riders behind him to protect him.
Uh,
So they were all a little concerned about those battle scenes and riding in such a large group. That none of them know how to ride a camel.
so after assigning this movie and
Hmm.
challenging you on this one,
Hmm.
I watched it and I paid attention to the scene. I paid attention to a lot of it, but the scene where his guide says, "This is how you ride. You put one leg over, and then you put your other leg and hook it underneath it,
Okay.
and that's
Yeah.
what holds you onto the saddle." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting." And then I found myself like laying down for a nap, and I had one leg over and the other leg tucked under it. And I thought, this is
This
how
is
it
how you
feels to
do
be
it.
on a camel. I mean, it doesn't how it
Oh,
feels to be on a camel, but now I get it. I understand
exactly.
the
That's
interlocking
fun.
right foot
That's
with it.
fun.
Yeah, but that's the first thing that came to mind while I'm lying down. It's like,
Okay.
oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is how Peter O'Toole did it.
Yeah. Because he said today was difficult. Tomorrow will be better.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I don't know about that, but yeah.
Well, I think we've about run dry. Although this is a nearly 4 hour movie. Any other comments?
Well, everyone should watch it.
Yeah.
Even though it's a 4-hour movie, you haven't seen it, everyone should watch it. And if you can see it in a large screen or in a movie theater, definitely.
Yeah, and I would say watch even if you can't do 4 hours, watch up to the intermission, which is about two
Mhm.
hours. So it's a standard. And I think that intermission concept back in the '60s, I remember intermissions in movies, and it was the purpose for they kind of respected the film and said, okay,
Mhm.
we want you to see the film. We don't want you to miss any part of this. So we're going to put this in the middle. So you will go out and buy some concessions and also
Mhm.
get ready to come back. And
Yeah, take
so
a
even
break.
if you've never seen this film and want to see it, you can do it in one sitting, but you can
Mhm.
also just do it in two, come back to it. And I don't think after you've seen the first half before the intermission, you'll give up on wanting to see the second half.
No, no. And the second half is very different than the first half.
Yeah.
Because when it first started, I thought, okay, what are we doing now? Where did this come from? Because it starts with the photographer.
Yeah. And it's a lot, the second half feels a lot more tragic,
Mm-hmm.
whereas there's some triumph in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to go back and kind of show to the officers in Cairo what he was able to do because they didn't want to risk it, and how he was able to unite people that way. And then the second half gets tragic because of his own demise and
Yeah.
demons that occur.
Yeah.
And you're like at the end, it's sort of like I'm so glad he got out of that now. You know, maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's a chance for recovery, but then we all know what happens
Yeah.
from the beginning of the film with that. So
Because even as he's going home, the man that was driving the Jeep said, "Oh, you're going home," and he went, "Hmm," almost as if he didn't know where home was. He went, "Yeah, home." Yeah, it
that's
was.
where that's where I think you and I interpret that end a little different. Where I
Yeah.
look at the camels, look at him looking at the camels and the Arabs on the camels and go, oh yeah, I kind of long for this. This was part of my
Okay.
journey. This was part of me being awakened in ways, versus like he doesn't know where he's at. I yeah, I view it a little bit more romantic because
Okay.
I need to view it romantic by the end of that film.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so
Yeah.
next film we're gonna do
Duck Soup, which I know nothing about again, other than it's what, Marx Brothers?
Marx
Right?
Brothers. It was on
Marx
your
Brothers.
list, and I was like,
I know
if it
it
was
was on
on
my
your list,
list.
I assumed that you had seen it
I think
before.
I probably did, Marty, but it's some movies, it's been so long. Probably I'll start and I'll say, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Or I've seen bits and pieces of it. Um, but yeah, it's on my list. I have a long list.
It is a 1933 film, comedy musical. You'll be happy to hear it only runs 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Good. Good.
So actually, you could probably watch four Marx Brothers films and still not make it up to it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, it is. It is a lot of fun. It's a farce,
Good.
and it speaks to the insanity of I don't want to say the insanity of war, but the way countries choose to go to battle, and of course the Marx Brothers do as part of this. It's pre-code, which means they could do some things that they couldn't do 5 years after,
Okay.
and say some things that they couldn't do 5 years after.
Okay.
So it's fun. It will be fun. It'll be operatic. It'll be Greek chorus. There'll be all sorts of fun things in that. So
Looking
we'll be
forward to
looking.
that.
Yeah, we'll be looking at Duck Soup. And if you watched Lawrence of Arabia 4 times, that means you could watch Duck Soup 16 times.
Yeah, do the math, right? Do the math.
Yeah,
Oh,
and we'll have fun with that film as we do that next time. I have a friend who said that they kind of wanted to do Duck Soup or wanted to be part of a discussion
okay.
on Duck Soup. So maybe
Oh, great.
I'll check that out. Maybe we'll bring somebody else in. So
Sure.
thanks for joining us for another deep dive into the golden age of cinema. Subscribe on YouTube. You can find us at youtube.com/@fade to chat. You can also send us your reflections, ideas for films you'd like us to look at the podtalknetwork@gmail.com, and revisit any previous discussions of films that we've had that you can find on our YouTube channel, or you can listen to the podcast of this video that we do with YouTube, the podcast version of it, on all of your different podcatchers. So thanks for joining us, and keep the projectors rolling.